At a time when opposition unity in this country has been so problematic, there are a couple of very important elections which have taken place. One of them, of course, for the post of president, and the other one taking place will be for the post of vice president of India. The opposition has announced, Mr. Sharad Pawar in fact announced the name of the veteran Congress leader, Margaret Alva. She's a 5-time Congress MP, a union minister and a governor as well. She's agreed to take on this very challenging election. Thanks, Mrs. Alva, very much for being with us. I suppose the first question is, why did you choose to accept this at a time when the numbers appear stacked against you?
Vishnu, elections are always a challenge, right? The important issue was to get all the opposition together to fight this election. And when they told me that they had agreed to make me the candidate and that I should represent them, I said yes.
Right.
Because I do believe that the need for opposition unity is the most important thing at the moment.
And what about the Trinamool Congress or the Aam Aadmi Party that the TMC hasn't really announced their support? Do you believe that it's just a matter of time?
There is time, and I'm hopeful and I believe that they will support me.
What about others like the Aam Aadmi Party? Do you believe, the opposition is taking its time to come together? Do you believe it should have happened faster?
It doesn't all have to happen in one day. There are days, 2 weeks to go, and you will see things change as we go along.
And do you believe that other parties as well might actually join the fray and support you? Parties, for example, like the BJD, do you believe that going down the road, they may actually be your supporters in this campaign?
I have great faith in this leadership of all these states. I'm approaching them, and I'm sure that they will find it worthwhile supporting me.
And ma'am, I realize you're holding your cards close to your chest, but that being said, would it be fair to suggest that you are actively, or those opposition leaders, Mr. Pawar for example, is actively in touch with leaders such as Mamta Banerjee or leaders such as Mr. Patnaik or others, Arvind Kejriwal, to get the process moving? Is that happening?
It is happening, and I am also directly in touch with many of them, and I've had long relationship with many of them, and therefore I will also reach out directly to them. And so there are many friendships which are beyond the political realm. They're personal relationships.
Right.
And I have great faith in these friends of mine that they will stand by me at this time.
Ma'am, in a sense, you've always been an extremely close aide of the top Congress leadership, but the Congress, your party, faces so many troubles, so many problems at this stage. Could you tell us a little bit about how this is a concern for you at a time when there are so many calls which have been made for even a change in the top leadership of the Congress, a leadership which you have endorsed and backed so closely in the past?
The Congress leadership is with me. The Congress leadership wants a united opposition. There are challenges in every party, so not in one alone. And the Congress is facing these challenges. I know there are ups and downs. The BJP had 2 seats at one time, and they moved on. You do not know what will happen tomorrow, who will be where. Let's wait, let's see things change. I have great hope and faith that the Congress will also pull itself out of this sort of downward phase, if I may say so, and be able to fight back.
Ma'am, your political career has been absolutely sterling. Some would suggest, barring an incident in 2008, a standoff that you had with Mrs. Gandhi over the issue of family entitlement and ticket distribution. That was then, this is now. Have all of those differences, and you've written about this, have all of those differences been sorted out as I speak to you today?
I have no differences with her at all. Whatever I said, I have explained my position, and soon after that she proposed me for a governorship. And I went on for 5 years to become a governor. So my relationship with Sonia ji, with Rahul, I have no problems. We are absolutely at peace with each other.
But you did have problems with Mr. A.K. Antony, for example, in the past. You felt that he felt that you were responsible for... You've had problems in the past with A.K. Antony when he was the Chief Minister of Kerala. In fact, this was something that came up in conversations with Mrs. Gandhi, I'm told as well. Was that a part of your career which was problematic, differences with Mr. A.K. Antony?
I have had differences with many Congress leaders over issues during all these years. You are talking about the 60s, it's almost 50 years past. So these are issues which have been long buried. I have written in my book the story of my life, what I went through, what I faced, and that is all. It's got nothing to do with them or their careers. What I have faced, I have recorded.
And ma'am, there was also this one controversial set of comments which you'd written in your book about the role of Sanjay Gandhi in allegedly transferring tanks to South Africa during the apartheid years. Do you stand by those remarks, ma'am?
Pardon me, these were reports from the press.
Okay.
It had been exposed in the press, and I raised it in the House saying these reports have come, and that this is something which, because we had no diplomatic relations with South Africa because of their apartheid policy, I raised it in the House. I was supported by everyone, and it was Sanjay who was supposed to be behind this whole deal with CPN Singh, and CPN Singh was moved out. Sanjay had died, and he was moved out of that ministry, and the matter was closed.
Ma'am, just getting back to these elections and the importance of these elections, firstly, when did you first find out? Who approached you first? And when did you actually consider? Was there ever any doubt in your mind that you wanted to take this challenge?
Well, when I was told that the entire opposition had unanimously selected me, and they requested me to accept this challenge of fighting the election, I said yes. I had gone home, as you know.
Yeah.
I was in Bangalore, and I was not seeking anything. But when a united opposition said that they felt I could fight this election on behalf of the entire opposition, I said yes. I know I've had a long innings, 50 years in public life. I have fought many battles, and you know something. In politics, you win or you lose. But the fight has to go on. Why I said yes was because I have been sitting back and watching what is happening in Delhi. The way the institutions of democracy have been undermined, the way parliament functioning has deteriorated, the way things are happening, I am a concerned citizen. I did feel that we had at some time to accept this challenge and fight unitedly. I am glad, and shall I say, I am also humbled in a way that the opposition thought of me and reposed their faith in me. I couldn't say no. I said yes when they approached me, and I'm now in the battle, ready for the challenge.
Ma'am, you know, in our country we champion the freedom of speech, but the freedom of speech, some would suggest, is not what it once was, and some would suggest it's not the case even in Parliament, when there are now restrictions on what MPs can actually say. The choice of words which they use has to be very calibrated, and some would suggest that dissent within Parliament itself is no longer tolerated. If you were to win this election, would you ensure that there would be more democratic expression allowed in Parliament?
I certainly would. You know something, Vishnu? I have seen Parliament since the 70s. I was in the Rajya Sabha for 24 years and then in the Lok Sabha. I have presided in both the houses. I have seen stalwarts like Vajpayee ji, Prakashvi Shastri, Bhupesh Gupta, Chandrasekhar, Mohan Daria, whole lot of very bold and very brilliant speakers speak, take on Mrs. Gandhi, take on the government, and be able really to say what they wanted to say. We used to sit in awe and watch them. This was the tradition. We had a Radhakrishnan in the chair, we had a V.V. Giri, we had outstanding people, Hidayatullah Saab, all outstanding chairmen who never restricted the right and the freedom of speech. Parliament is meant for debate. Parliament is meant for discussion. Parliament is meant to oppose, and Parliament is expected to work out a consensus. That is the role of the chair. And I believe that I would be able to strive and in some way or the other bring different sections of the House together to find solutions to national problems.
Well, ma'am, thank you for speaking to us, and good luck in this very big challenge, and thank you so much for sparing some time to speak to us. Thanks very much indeed, ma'am.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.